Hello, Grand Strand. This is Richard Florzak, the private chef to the stars, and welcome to Talking About Food. Remember, it is the only local food commentary show on the Grand Strand that talks specifically about restaurants, food trucks, festivals, and farmers markets. We talk to local chefs, local food business owners, and remember, contrary to a restaurant chef, I cooked for most of my career in a home, albeit it was some of the biggest stars in Hollywood, but I still cooked in a home. So you and I have a lot in common. I've often said the only difference between you, the home cook, and me, the private chef, is I got a paycheck. So always remember this: you are your family's private chef. That's why I'll also be talking about some of the best major appliances as well as the best small kitchen appliances. I've been wanting Chef Joe Bonaparte on the show for a while. He was on the episode 2, but I wanted him back for the longest time. This guy is busier than anybody I've ever met. I mean, he takes such pride. He is the director of the International Culinary Academy at Horry, Georgetown County, and this guy takes more pride in a business that isn't his than anybody I've ever seen. But I've been wanting to pick his brain about some of the home appliance that he has and some of the advice he can give to some of you home cooks. Chef Joe Bonaparte, welcome to Talking About Food.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. You know what? Let's just jump right into this. If you don't have the answers, that's fine. I'm just so interested, and I think the listeners will be. One of the things I get asked about most often is, what kind of knives should I buy? Now, what kind of knives do you use at home?
My personal knife that I like now and that I use the most is called a Mac knife, M-A-C. And it's...
Is that the brand?
Yes, it's the brand. But they make a bunch of different lines, but I used not the top of the line, but the one down from the top. Kind of a German-style knife. Has a thinner blade like a Japanese knife.
Right.
So I like the thin blade on it, and they're reasonably priced. They're easy to sharpen, easier to sharpen than some of that German steel.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
The German steel has more stainless in it, and it's a little harder to sharpen. But over the years, like, I still own the first knife I bought when I went to California Culinary Academy, in the early 80s. It's a Forstner. What I like about Forstners is you can get them for like $20, $30 maybe for a decent knife. They hold up well. I have a couple of those in my house, but I do have a really nice Wüsthof that I like.
Right.
And I have a few beater knives, that I've just collected over the years.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those too. If one of the listeners wanted to buy a Mac, where do they purchase that?
Just get online and look at Mac, M-A-C.
The other question I get asked about knives is, how many different knives should I have? So obviously, everybody should have a chef's knife at home. What size would you recommend?
For me, I like a 9 or 10-inch chef knife. The kits that we have for our students that are put together by a company, it's called Mercer, and you can buy them on Amazon or you can buy them anywhere. And that's a good middle-of-the-road knife, too. For most people, somewhere between an 8 to 10-inch.
8 to 10.
Because like if you got real small hands, an 8-inch might be better than the 9 or 10.
Right.
I know when I went to school and they told me to go buy a knife for school down the street at the knife store, I walked in and I was like, "What's the biggest knife you have?" And so I bought a 12-inch.
It's a machete.
Yeah, it's like a 12-inch.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
What other knives, within reason, should the home cook have that they're going to use most of the time? Because what I notice is, in some of the department stores, they'll sell, special deals, the knife block with 45 different knives, and you're not going to use all of that stuff. So what would you suggest? You'd have a chef's knife, and what else? I
know what I use the most: paring knife, and I got probably, other than those two, what I use fairly frequently, because I like bread. One thing is a bread knife.
Serrated
bread knife. And then the other knife I love, and I especially love it, in the summer when tomatoes are around and stuff is a little short serrated knife for cutting tomatoes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There's a couple, I can't remember if it's a Hinkle or a Wusthof. I think they both make them, and they call it actually a salami knife. And it's like, might be about 6 inches long or something.
But it's serrated.
It's serrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works well for tomatoes. So you would have a chef's knife, a paring knife, which is a small, very sharp knife used for peeling and things like that. You'd have a bread knife and that smaller, we'll call it, bread knife. Okay, let's get into the bigger appliances. What kind of range do you have at home?
What we have here is not my first choice. We have electric, which kills.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
which kills me.
Yeah, it's a challenge each
Yeah,
time.
because the option is, I guess, propane.
Yeah.
Do you have propane?
Yeah, we have propane.
Yeah. Maybe I need to switch to that. But when we moved into the house, there was electric. So I got rid of the old 30-year-old one, and I have a KitchenAid.
Yeah. I like that brand.
Yeah, glass top with the convection oven.
Right.
Works a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah. If you had your druthers, I mean, once again, within reason, what kind of range would you buy?
So some I've used over the last few years are like some of the nice GE or KitchenAid gas ones at like my brother's house in Atlanta, friends' houses. The range that I've had that I've loved the most was in my house in Charlotte, and I had bought it and put it in up there. It was called the Dynamic Cooking System, and it was made by Feichel and Pfister. I think when my KitchenAid dies here, I'm going to maybe switch it to like a KitchenAid or a higher end, like a GE or something.
Right.
If I had my druthers, I would get a Wolf or maybe a Viking. Or something like that.
Right. I know we have what came with the home. And by the time I got here, I was done being concerned about what the kitchen had. But I had a nice setup in Los Angeles. I had a Thermador 4-burner, and then to the side of it was a built-in wok. Right. That I think had 50,000 BTUs under it, and I used that for everything.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't think they make that anymore. What about smaller appliances? What can't you live without?
Like as far things you plug in?
Yeah.
My little KitchenAid mixer, stand mixer, gotta have that. The small Cuisinart.
Yep. Gotta have the smaller or the larger or both.
I just have like a medium one.
Yeah.
One, it's not too big. I think it's like 4 quarts, maybe 3-4 quarts.
Yeah.
Not a tiny one. Once in a while. But those two things I use the most.
Blender?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Vitamix.
Gotta have I fought because I had one in Los Angeles, and when I opened my restaurant, I moved it to the restaurant, which was the biggest mistake I ever made, because you know what happens. And they destroyed it. And when I got here, I just fought buying another one. And finally, my wife bought me one for my birthday. She said, "I'm tired of seeing you, throw the ones in the garbage and get back to that."
And that's how I got mine. Was I think my wife and my in-laws. My in-laws are a military family. They went to the PX on base in San Antonio and got a deal.
Yeah.
I whined for years about wanting
I thought you were going to say they pooled their money together because they're so expensive, but certainly well worth it.
Can't believe I was going to forget that.
Yeah,
that thing is incredible.
Yeah, it's got so much power. So the KitchenAid mixer, a Cuisinart. I'll add one to
Vitamix.
that, and Vitamix blender without a doubt. I'll add one to it. I like the Cuisinart mini chopper because I just throw 6 or 8 pieces of garlic in there and zoom. It's done. Where do you shop? Local grocery stores.
Kroger, because it's real convenient.
It's close. Yeah.
Publix.
Yeah.
It's close. Really, where I like to shop for produce and for my meat is at the farmer's market that I put on at my school on Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I started the farmer's market there was for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
So I would have first dibs on stuff.
Yeah. And it turns out benefiting the the community. But if you had your choice, money not being an object, you've got Publix, Lowe's, Food Lion, and Kroger.
Sometimes I think over at Publix might find better produce, but sometimes at Kroger, I would say I go to Kroger more than anywhere.
Yeah.
It's around the corner.
It's convenient.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy a lot of meat or produce at the grocery store.
Where do you buy your meat?
At the farmer's market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we have a local beef person, pork, and chicken there.
I didn't know that. That's great to know.
And so primarily, I like getting the stuff where I know it came from and how it was raised and that kind of stuff. And we eat at home a lot more vegetables. Mm-hmm. You know, proteins are smaller.
Right.
I can make a chicken last a week.
Yeah.
Eat it roasted, eat it in a salad, eat it in a quesadilla, all that kind of stuff.
Let's just switch this up just a bit. Do you watch cooking shows? Now, before you answer, I'm going to give you an off-ramp if you need it. I would rather stick a red-hot poker in my eyeball than watch most cooking shows. Yeah. So have at it.
I used to love it. Yeah. And then I don't know when it kind of stopped, that I don't really watch them anymore.
You know why? Because I can't figure out for myself. There's a handful. There's this one called Tasty 101 that has, I think, like 10-minute shows, and it's real basic stuff, and I'll go back to them once in a while just because, heck, I forget stuff, you know?
Right.
But I can't really put my finger on why I don't enjoy them.
I can't either. I think it has something to do with, it's like so much of my life has been immersed in that. Yeah. That, like, if I want to watch something on TV, I kind of want to disengage and watch something else. I don't want to be taken back into work.
Yeah.
So I don't really... But there was a time I did.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think they serve a terrific purpose for the community and the home cook. But it's sometimes for me personally, it had its downsides because, you know, being a private chef, I was at the mercy sometimes of whatever show my client was watching. You know, they're educated culinary wise by the Food Channel, and you're like, you know what? I spent a heck of a lot of money going to school to learn properly, and you're telling me this is how it should be done.
Yeah, and I've experienced that too. It's like, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I could really care less what you saw on TV. But it's funny because sometime in the last few months, one of the people came into work, the dining room manager or something, and my restaurant chef had we were changing menu for lunch and had come up with a new salad on there, and dining room manager's telling me it's fire and blah blah blah, and I'm like, has she been watching The Bear or what?
Right,
yeah, because it's like everybody says herd. You know, it's like, what happened to Yes Chef? And
Heard.
You know, and then one of my chefs started calling all the students chef. And I'm like, why are you calling all the students chef?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? And it's like
from the bear show. Shit, right.
You know?
The other one that cracks me up sometimes, that had gotten under my skin a couple of times, is when I'll overhear people say, you know, I'm a foodie and I do a lot of cooking at home because it relaxes me. And I want to say, yeah, when Tom Cruise opens the dining room door and says, hey, buddy, you told me 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago. Let's go, buddy. You know, tell me how relaxing that is. Right. Okay, let's switch it up again. What's your favorite pizza in the Grand Strand?
Grand Strand. That's real tough.
It's a good thing that it's tough.
Yeah.
It means that it's available, you know.
Well,
good stuff anyway, I think.
For me, my favorite kind of style of pizza is Neapolitan style pizza, and there's not really that around.
No.
That so much. But for like a kind of New York pie, I think the place Mulberry's okay. Yeah. Over here, Danny's
is good.
Over there on 707. And then, you know, Tofino's, we'll get them sometime.
I just had that last week for the first time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My favorite question to ask chefs is, what is your favorite trash food that you would be embarrassed to tell your fellow chefs about?
God, I gotta say, I get a craving for the Velveeta cheese dip. You know,
the Super Bowl one.
Yeah, I actually bought a block of Velveeta a couple weeks ago because I was having this craving.
Yeah,
you like once a year that 7-layer dip stuff.
Oh,
you know,
man, I love that stuff.
I'm
not embarrassed to say I love that stuff.
You know, peanut butter and jelly I love, and I mean for me, I think the two of the greatest foods in the world are pizza and tacos. You know, I love those things.
And my two favorites are pizza and burgers. Yeah.
Burgers are good.
Isn't it funny? Two successful chefs talking about Velveeta.
I know. I mean, it's is it even cheese? You know?
And you know what? Once or twice a year, I don't care what it is.
I don't care either.
What it is.
There's nothing like watching a football game and
Chef Joe Bonaparte. He is the executive director at the Horry Georgetown Technical College, the division, which is the International Culinary Academy. I just love this guy. And thanks, Joe, so much for coming in and telling people at home, you know, what they need. As you know, there's a million different things out there. And, you know, you're inundated with, speaking of, you know, Food Network and those kinds of shows, with chefs on there that are endorsing products that you and I may look at and go, no. Yeah. So this was fantastic. Please tell me you'll come back and do it again, because this is just priceless stuff.
The best advice: keep it simple. Just start with something and keep it simple. Yeah. You don't need all those recipes and all that million of things.
I've said it a million times. The simplest dishes are usually my favorites. Okay, coming up next, actually, I'm going to do a pizza commentary on a new pizzeria I just tried. But after that, we have got the chef. Her name is Josie Allen coming up, and she is the owner of Black Cat Kitchen Food Truck. This woman is so cool, and her menu is terrific. And welcome back to Talking About Food. Let's talk about a subject that is one of my favorites, and that is pizza. Just discovered another place up in Little River. It is Cutty's Pizza, Cuttys. It is located at 1442 Highway 17 in Little River. A friend of mine told me about it just yesterday, so I ran up there today for lunch, and here's what I know about the place. Nothing. I've got no background on it at all. All I know is it's a really cool location. It's part of a Speedway gas station, which as soon as my friend told me that, I said, I've got to go to this place. I don't know if it's part of or it's connected to, but they sure have a giant landmark to direct you to the place. It's called Speedway Gas Station, but once again, Cutty's. And I was pleasantly surprised. I walked in, they were doing a live feed of a radio station called Easy Radio, Easy Listening. They were in there. I ordered a large cheese pie, and it was terrific. It was thin crust. First of all, the people at the counter, I'm getting the impression, I don't know if my friend told me this, but you know what? It doesn't really matter to me that much what the background of the place is. All I know is that they were extremely friendly and inviting and took care of me. And I ordered my large pizza. It's an 18-inch pizza. It was $19. Took about 15 minutes. It was terrific. It was good. It was a very thin crust. Cheese was excellent. The sauce was spiced, you know, not hot spice, but like I've talked about before, there was a lot of oregano in it, but not overbearing. It was a very, very nice blend of cheese to pizza to crust. And the crust was very good. Like I said, it was paper thin. The edged crust around the outside of the pizza was sometimes you'll get it and it's kind of like puffed up and blistering. This was not. This was thinner, very similar to the pizza, which It wasn't, good nor bad. It was just the way it is. But I liked it. Had a nice chew to the crust. I checked the carriage on the bottom. It was nice. And when I bit into it, it crunched. Hold it up. That tip sort of bends over a little bit, but doesn't sag too much because they had a nice ratio of sauce and cheese to crust. It was good. I think it was larger than 18 inches because I knew it was an 18-inch box. And when they served it to me, I told them that I was going to have a piece there at the restaurant and then take the rest to go. So they just gave it to me in a to-go box. And when I opened it, it was like the pizza didn't fit in the box. So it's a terrific deal. I just love the fact that it was in or connected to a gas station. And folks, I really don't know too much history about this. I just had it today, and I'm sort of rushed to do this commentary because I'm putting this podcast out tomorrow, which will be Friday the 13th. Ooh. So, I had to get it done. So I couldn't do a lot of research on it. Like I said, the people are friendly. I thought it was a great place, and I would certainly go back there again. Once again, that is Cutty's 1442 Highway 17 in Little River. And when we come back, I've got Josie Allen from Black Cat Kitchen Food Truck. Great lady. She's a terrific chef, and she's got this extremely eclectic menu that just works. And I've had some of her food, and it is just great. I can't wait for you folks to hear this. Nothing brings people together like great food. And on that topic, great food, I have a great chef in the studio today. Her name is Josie Allen. She is the owner-operator of Black Cat Kitchen Food Truck, and I am so anxious to talk with her and ask her a million questions. Josie, thank you for coming to Talking About Food.
Thank you for having me.
Josie, how did you get started in this business?
Within 10 days of moving here, I started culinary school.
Oh, wow. Did you go to HGTC?
Yes. I said, I'm not going to do this forever. And I went to art school. And turns out I can't do anything else.
That's great. That's exactly how I ended up in this business. So that's how you got your start. But how did you go from that to the food truck world? I've got a million questions about the food truck world.
I guess seeing them, food trucks on TV and stuff, it was coming here. We knew it was. We've been working on it for a while. Just ideas. My girlfriend, Meredith Herman of Noshpit.
Yes, I've heard a lot about them, yeah.
Just in daydreams kind of stuff. And then it happened. Here we are.
Did you work in a food truck prior?
I worked on the Noshpit.
Oh, I see. You worked on that, and then you decided, heck, I want to do this as my own business. So you had to find a food truck, right?
And it happened way quicker than I anticipated. Rocco's Tacos came along and said, hey, I have this other truck. Let's make a deal. And that was kind of the opportunity and the push, I guess.
Yeah.
It was a little scary. The first few months was like very horrifying.
Yeah. You don't actually prep everything in your food truck and then drive it to a spot. You have to have a commissary kitchen, right?
Correct.
I'm gathering that there's a lot of red tape you have to go through in order to get that food truck in business.
Yes, so many hurdles.
Can you tell us about some of them?
You have to have a commissary, which is really hard to find.
Can you explain that to the audience, what that actually means?
Okay, so your commissary is where you go and you do your food preparing. You clean your truck, you store your truck in most cases.
But it's a brick and mortar
yes.
building. So
it has to be a DHEC regulated,
right?
Well, now Department of Agriculture, but DHEC regulated
facility. They inspect that, mm-hmm. and they also inspect your truck.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So it's realistically it's having two kitchens. Can you park anywhere?
No. There are rules about how far away from a restaurant or whatever you can park. Because Myrtle Beach area has tons of restaurants. And they don't want you to compete, I guess.
Right.
So there are rules about how far away. You have to have permission to park. You can't just roll up.
Permission from where?
The city. Each township, city, county has its own municipality, and you have to get a permit with each one.
With each one.
Yes.
So you can't just park anywhere.
You can't just park anywhere.
Right. Do you find it hard to find places where you can sell your wonderful food?
Yes and no. We are now getting more popular as we're more known.
Right.
So we're getting more places.
How long ago did you purchase the truck?
But I purchased it in October of 22.
Realistically, a year and a half into this.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you've skyrocketed to the top of the food truck world.
Oh, I'm not the top. That's
Well, speaking of the top, let's talk about your menu for a minute. I am just blown away with how eclectic it is and also how it works. You do this really cool fusion style. You say it's a food truck dishing up globally inspired comfort fusion. I'm telling you, I just love that line. How did you come up with this style?
so the wheels are always spinning. I'll see something someone else has done, like say on Instagram or whatever,
Right.
and I like, wouldn't it be cool if?
Yes.
And then I twist it up a little bit,
Yeah.
change it around.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't this be good in a bao bun? You know.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a lot of dishes that are actually that become our signature bao, or actually whole entrees or something. you know,
Right.
that originally inspired.
I don't know if it's I'm not talented enough or not smart enough, but I can't often explain why things work, but I know when I see it, when it works. Your fusion is just like spot on. Tell the listeners, what are some of your top sellers at Black Cat Kitchen?
Well, we have several. We're known mostly for the bao that we do.
Can you explain to the listeners what a bao is?
It's a Chinese steamed dumpling. I would say it's like a fluffy taco, and that's a lotus leaf. We also do the baozi style, where it's pre-stuffed. And again, it's not traditional with your roasted pork or whatever.
Exactly.
I do a cheeseburger bao, and it has ground beef, cheese, everything
it.
you would find in a Big Mac.
Yeah.
It's stuffed inside a bun.
Oh, that is brilliant.
I love pickles, so I put pickles in everything.
Yeah. And it just goes right back to globally inspired comfort fusion.
Yeah.
What else? Could you give me 2 or 3 more?
Everyone loves, it's probably one of the most popular dishes, the cheer wine teriyaki spare ribs that we do. If we don't have that, people kind of get upset.
Oh,
That and the kimchi hot dog, which was something I just made out for Bike Week. I was just, let me dumb down my menu and make a hot dog.
yeah. Well,
And now it's like so popular. It's
Yeah.
my favorite thing to eat if I'm hungry and don't want to eat.
yeah. Well, that says a lot about that particular dish, and trust me, that's not dumbing it down. That's absolutely brilliant. Josie Allen of Black Cat Kitchen. How do people find you? This is very important to me personally because I've started this podcast, and I'm certainly not of the generation that is a whiz at social media, and a lot of people don't even know what podcasts are. So I kind of feel we have a little bit in common here. How do people find you?
Well,
Because you're not in the same place every day.
no. So we have a street food finder app. It's an actual app you can download on your phone.
And that
then
is that what it's called?
streetfoodfinder.com.
Streetfoodfinder.com
You can also, it's also an app you can download to your phone,
on your phone.
and it will tell you all the food trucks, if they're signed up for this, in your area.
Right.
And now we're not as metropolitan as, say, Charleston.
Right.
So there's only a couple people other truckers that are signed up. Nosh Pit's one of them.
Yeah. So how many days a week on average are you available?
And so we're on Facebook, Instagram. I post my schedule, but the Street Food Finder app posts for me on Facebook Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, when we're usually up and going.
Right. So you're available on average 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can find Black Cat Kitchen on the app called
Streetfoodfinder.com.
Streetfoodfinder.com, also on Instagram, also on Facebook. I'm telling you something, Josie Allen of Black Cat Kitchen, just talking about this food. I am so hungry right now, and I just love your style. I love your approach, and I can't thank you enough for coming in to talking about food. And coming up after the break, I've got in studio a real local boy. His name is Captain Fred Rourke of Sweet Tea Charters, and he's going to teach us how he does a true low country shrimp fry. This isn't the stuff that they teach you in culinary school, but man, I am really looking forward to this. I have in studio today a local celebrity. His name is Fred Rourke. He's the owner of Sweet Tea Charters, expertise in red fishing, and frankly, he's an expert in just about any type of fish that's out there today. But he also knows a heck of a lot about shrimp, catching them, cleaning them, cooking them. And he really struck a nerve with me the other night when he was telling me about these fish fries that he does at home. And once again, this stuff blows me away. Some of you listeners know of my background working for Hollywood and some of the schooling that I've had. And you know what? You can push all of that aside when I meet somebody like Fred and he starts telling me about some of the dishes that he puts together. Fred, welcome to Talking About Food.
Nice to be here.
So listen, if you don't mind, I'm sure this will go in a whole bunch of different directions, but if you can just tell the listeners about your typical fish fry that you do every once in a while at home.
Well, I grew up in Beaufort County, down south of the Grand Strand.
You grew up in a middle class family.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And everything down there. One thing that back in the 60s, there was really no seafood restaurants in Beaufort that would make it. They would open up a seafood restaurant and they just couldn't survive.
Why is that?
Because everybody was doing what I do in my backyard.
Oh, yeah, they could do it themselves. Why have a seafood restaurant?
You got it.
Yeah.
So to eat seafood wasn't a go out to eat dinner thing. It was get your friends together, get the fire pit going and, get your gas cooker out and do it in the backyard. But you have to be careful about how you set the flame on that too. But I'm using a cast iron pan that's about 4 inches deep.
About 10 inches across?
Maybe a little bit bigger than that.
Oh, okay.
But, and then I'm putting about 1.5 inches of canola oil in it.
Canola, yeah.
But you have to be careful when you're using this burner that you don't get things too hot.
Yeah. Is there a way that you judge it? I mean, do you use a thermometer?
No.
Yeah.
But it'll turn over though. I mean, if you're frying fish and the batter and stuff gets in the bottom, it'll turn over. It'll burn. It'll scorch.
Yeah.
And you can take the batter and I'll drop it in. If it goes to the bottom and sticks, it's not ready yet. But if you take a little bit and just drop it in and it goes in, it comes right back to the surface, bam, you're ready to go. There's your thermometer.
Science.
Science
at its best. Okay. What about actually choosing shrimp? Where do you get your shrimp from?
I know everybody's seen the movie Forrest Gump.
Absolutely. 10
All
times.
that was filmed in Beaufort County in St. Helena Sound. And as I was growing up, where Lieutenant Dan was sitting on the dock, and Forrest came by and he jumped off the boat.
Yeah.
That's at Cusall Island at Sam's Point. So where Dan was sitting was Sam's Point. When I was young, there was shrimp boats lined up there 3 abreast, 20 deep. I mean, that's how prominent shrimping was in Beaufort at the time.
When was that? Like what year?
In the 60s.
60s, yeah.
Or if you went to the beach, there would be dozens of shrimp boats.
Yeah.
But there was ladies on that dock that would head and grade the shrimp by hand. So as they picked them up, they would pick up with both hands, and I've watched them do it. It was absolutely amazing. The 100 pounds of shrimp laying there, that's 10 minutes. These 3 ladies could pick them up, they had a hole in the table that would go right back in the creek. They could, by feel, would grade them. So they're picking them up 2 at a time, and they're culling with their thumbs, and they could tell by their hand what size they were, and they would have 3 separate piles on their table.
Wow.
The access to get seafood, especially in Beaufort County, and the same things here, easily accessible to get local seafood.
Wow. Where do you get it from?
Well, there are seafood markets locally that will get them locally. right now is the prime time to get big shrimp. They're fresh. You can look at their tails and look at the color of their tails.
What are you looking for?
There's a yellow and a blue tint in their tails.
Mm-hmm.
That will tell you that they're fresh first.
Yellow and blue tint.
Yes. Word of mouth, like in Merle's Inlet, you can find out where to find the fresh stuff that's coming in. And
right.
This time of year, it's coming in every day. I mean, because they're basically coming straight off the ocean right to the dock. You can get them pretty quick right off the boat, basically.
Right off the boat.
Right. And those are going to be a completely different product than you're going to buy at a grocery store.
And it's coming literally right off the boat.
Yes.
I can't, this is so. So you've chosen your shrimp, looking for the blue and yellow tail fins at the bottom.
And they will be gray. Their bodies will be gray. A fresh shrimp on the hull is going to feel, with the shell on, it's going to feel slick. One that's been frozen is going to have more texture, and it will not have that same slip.
That's interesting, because I just peeled 10 pounds of local shrimp last week, and there was slime all over my hands.
That is a sign of that they are fresh.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you've chosen your shrimp. How do you prep them for cooking?
All right, I use a deveiner. There's a bunch of different styles. The one I'm using is an older cast aluminum, simple deal, but you stick it on the vein and peel them, and I've got just a trickle of water running on the sink.
Yeah.
And you'll take that, and I'll rinse the veins off, and they're going into a pot with some ice in it.
If you can tell the listeners how you put together your batter.
Batter is simple. I use full-bodied lager.
Right.
Yeah, I use the red can of Budweiser.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's what I use. Then I'm using salt and pepper, self-rising flour.
Self-rising. There's got to be specific about that, right?
Yes, that's it. You mix this up. It's not like, it's thinner than pancake mix. It's thinner than that. But if you go out and you start frying and you find out these things are puffing up really big, you just put another shot of beer in it, thin it out a little bit. So now I've got my cooker set up. I've got my oil getting hot. Well, Southern cooks in the days, ladies would take a sliced onion in fresh oil, and they would just fry the onion in the oil before they cooked anything else in it.
Why?
Flavor.
They flavored the oil.
You got it.
Brilliant. Okay, now when it comes to the shrimp, do you dredge them in flour first?
No.
Just into the batter.
Into the batter. If, like I said, if you drop them in and they puff up and they're really huge, you need to add a little more beer to your mix. Yeah, and it's crispy.
Yeah.
And you get the little crispy dots, and I'll pile those up, and everybody kind of munches on those. But
you're killing me here. You're killing me. Plus, it's shrimp season. God, man.
But the fresh shrimp, what you're going to find out when you bite into it, number one, you'll taste the beer in it. It's not heavy. It's not overbearing. But you'll also taste how sweet the shrimp are. I just dump the bowl I've got the shrimp peeled and prepped in.
Yeah.
Right into the big bowl, which has got my stuff made up in it.
How do you serve it, Fred?
You don't fix a plate. Well, on that table, there's going to be cocktail sauce.
Yeah.
And ketchup. And I'm usually cooking a flounder around the same time, so I have cocktail sauce. But they come out. I've got some bowls out there if you want to put your own cocktail sauce and stuff in it, but it's not a sit down, fix your plate situation.
Do you eat them just with your fingers?
You got it. You're eating with your fingers. There's no formality to it.
Now, you said you also usually do flounder with it. Do you eat the flounder the same way?
Flounder fillets I like skin on, salt and pepper. If you want to cut them into fingers and then you could batter them that way and do it. But I use cornmeal. I salt the fish, not the cornmeal. The cornmeal in like a Ziploc, or sometimes a bowl, doesn't matter. And I cut it in pieces that will basically fit on a piece of white bread. So if y'all don't know what white bread is.
Oh, my God, does that sound good? Keep going.
Standard white bread. Yeah, white.
The good old stuff. I love it. And I'm not embarrassed to say that I do.
Folks, it's white bread that you could buy by the store brand.
Yeah.
in a long loaf.
And you put the flounder right on it.
Yeah, in cocktail sauce.
And cocktail sauce. This is killing me, folks. I'm telling you. I have been, UCLA chef's program, the whole bit. I studied in Hong Kong. I've been all over the world. I thank God that I ended up here in the Grand Strand, because this is me. This is the way I like to eat. This is what I like talking about. Seafood's one of my favorite things. And who better to have on the show today than Fred Rourke of Sweet Tea Charters. Folks, go out and try it. I was just invited by Fred next weekend for his famous shrimp fry. Fred, thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, man. Enjoyed doing it.
And that just about wraps up the episode for the week. I hope you learned something from Chef Joe Bonaparte, what kind of appliances you may be interested in at home, what kind of knives to use. He was so informative. I just love that guy. And make sure you check out Black Cat Kitchen Food Truck. Remember, you can find them on the app Street Food Finder. You can find her on Instagram and on Facebook. And don't forget to try Captain Fred's recipe for fried shrimp. Can't wait to head over to his place next week for that famous fish fry. Man, I can taste it right now. So hope you enjoyed the show today. Hope you learned something. And always remember, folks, you are your family's private chef. Thanks for listening.